everyone. Welcome to the webinar. We are thrilled to have you here today. This is the Medical Innovation Challenge informational webinar, and I'm your MC for the hour, Laura Benold. I'm the Communications Director for Tech Connect, which is a division of Advanced Technology International, ATI. And we're pleased to have you here. We're going to learn about the largest Medical Innovation Challenge program out there right now. And it's the Medical Innovation Challenge aligns with 3 leading medtech consortia. They're represented here today. And they represent over $20 billion in health technology contracting authority. So lots to learn about how to get engaged with them, as well as during the webinar, you're also going to hear about how to apply for the challenge, why you should apply, and what you can win if you do a good job at applying. So we're excited to share all of that information with you, and along the way you'll hopefully learn a lot and develop questions. And when you do, we hope that you'll put them in the question tab on the right side of your screen in the dashboard. So as we go through the webinar, feel free to pop those there, and at the end we will get to as many questions as we can. And anything that we don't get to, we will address with you after the webinar via email, one-on-one, so that we can ensure your questions are answered. If you have any concerns or anything you need, feel free to send me a chat, and we'll try to address those throughout the time. But we have 1 hour, and I'd like to go ahead and introduce our 3 speakers. So we have Rick Satcher. He's the Commercialization Director for the Medical Technology Enterprise Consortium, MTech. We're going to hear a lot about that today. Mike Stebbins is the Executive Director for 2 of the consortia, Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction Consortium and the Medical CBRN Defense Consortium. So you're going to hear about their interest in the challenge as well. And then Jennifer Rocha is the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at the Tech Connect division of ATI. And she'll speak to the challenge itself and how to get engaged with that operationally. So they're each going to speak briefly today, and then we're going to end the webinar with nearly 20 minutes of Q&A from you in the audience. As you go through the presentations, as I've said, just add those questions, and we'll get to them as soon as we can at the end of the presentations later in the call. Just some general etiquette, please remain on mute and off video. We just want to reduce distraction for all the audience members. And so on that note, I am going to leave you all on video for a moment and pass the mic to Jen, who's going to kick us off.
Excellent. Thanks, Laura. It is a pleasure to be with all of you today. In addition to Rick and Mike, we are very excited to share this great news about a innovation pitch program and 50K prize pool that we are going to run at the upcoming Tech Connect World Conference, which will take place the week of June 13th at the Marriott Gaylord National Harbor, which is just outside of DC. Next slide, please. So for those that are familiar with Tech Connect and or familiar with ATI, we have known of each other for, I think, 25 years. And we were really excited last December to be acquired by ATI. And that statement that I bolded for everyone, combining the nation's largest innovation ecosystem with the nation's largest consortium manager, pretty much sums it up. This is a wonderful coupling of the 25 years that Tech Connect has taken to curate a broad innovation community. And that's really been the focus of Tech Connect, is really this community of innovators, potential technology integrators. And this covers everyone from government to military to Fortune 1000 companies. And to be able to connect with ATI and learn more about their consortium members, the 4,000 plus companies they work with, the overlap of 70 plus thousand, I suspect it's even more, that are already engaged with both organizations. This was a really wonderful acquisition. And the 50K prize pool and the Medical Innovation Challenge is just one part of kind of the benefit that we can give to this entire innovation community and really bring the power of both organizations to a curated Medical Innovation Challenge. And we're very excited about that. So the June 13th event will really be kind of like our first joint offering to all of you. So next slide, please. So how it works. Our deadline is Friday, April 8th. And when you go to our website, you will see the link to submit your innovation. Definitely take a look at the target areas that are on that Medical Innovation Challenge page. You will also learn more from Rick and Mike about their consortia and their areas of interest, and certainly take note of that too, because I suspect that will help you figure out which technology or technologies you would like to submit into the challenge for review. Certainly dual use solutions for both civilian and military will certainly are ideal entrants for this challenge. And we always recommend that if you have a really cool technology and you think there's potential interest, submit it. You don't necessarily have to be a startup. This could come from academia. This could come from a DoD lab. Anyone is welcome to submit, and there is no fee to do so. And everyone follows the same submission template that you will see on our website. Once that April 8th deadline passes, we then hunker down or bunker down and go into a review process, take a look at all the submissions, and the top ranked submissions are invited to pitch in person on Monday, June 13th, and they're going to compete for a $50,000 non-dilutive prize. And so the way we are currently going to distribute that is 5 prizes at $10,000 each, but you will get a final notification about that distribution in the emails you receive from us once you submit. One of the cool things about the Innovation Challenge on site is that as the folks are pitching, we are going to have an on-site review panel, and they are going to give feedback after each pitch presenter. And this review panel will be a curated group of military, government, industry, and investment leadership. And this Innovation Challenge really builds upon the work that Tech Connect has done for nearly 12 years. We've run similar challenges for our clients and partners, ranging from large corporates to the military. And so we have a great situational awareness of not only what kinds of technologies will be ideal for the challenge, but then to pair that with a review panel that's extremely engaged, that will give great feedback. And it's a very dynamic environment that we create there. And we're super excited to be able to do that in June with these consortium members and leadership. And let's say you are not selected to pitch in the Medical Innovation Challenge, there are certainly other opportunities for you to participate at the overall Tech Connect World event. In addition to the Medical Innovation Challenge, we also run additional sessions that are pitch programs with no money attached. However, you will still get to potentially pitch your technology in other breakout sessions. The Tech Connect World event, the breadth and depth, we cover multiple industrial sectors. We have a rather large exhibit hall. We have keynotes and posters. And so this is wonderful ecosystem that anyone that submits to the challenge will be able to take advantage of. But I think most importantly, the Medical Innovation Challenge, we encourage you to submit to that. We encourage you to pay attention to all the various consortia that are associated with this. And thanks to their support, we have the platform to be able to do this for all of you. And we certainly encourage you to apply for membership to these consortia as well, because it's a really fantastic opportunity for you to learn firsthand about funding and partnership opportunities from the DoD and federal agencies. And we are just so delighted to be able to do this June. Next slide, please. So as I was saying before, these are kind of the important dates and deadlines to keep track of. Friday, April 8th is our submission deadline. If you are accepted to pitch, you will find out the week of April 25th. If you are not accepted to pitch, we will also present you with various other opportunities to engage at the on-site event. Ideally, we would love everyone, if whoever's selected to pitch, please let us know by the first week of May. This allows us to pull together the best review panel possible, and it also allows us to promote your involvement in the Medical Innovation Challenge. And last but not least, certainly to all meet in person at the Marriott Gaylord National Harbor will be great. I think to have this in person after 2.5 years of the ups and downs of COVID, we are very happy to be able to host this in person and to bring all of you together. And I think a lot of things that happen, not only the Medical Innovation Challenge, but Tech Connect World, that activity and that work goes on beyond the week of June 13th, because you have everything from the consortia, becoming a member of that, meeting the review panelists, getting involved in the Tech Connect division of ATI, all of that really will culminate in that week of June 13th, and that activity will go beyond that. And certainly if you have any questions related to the challenge from an operations logistics side, please let me know. We will keep the website updated with various updates, and then we will also be pinging everyone through email comms, look on our LinkedIn pages, and see all the updates there. Last slide, please. So here's my contact information. Please feel free to reach out to me anytime about the challenges. As I mentioned before, I've had the honor of curating many challenges and putting together these programs for over 12 years with all our partners, and it's a real honor to do that. And this will be kind of our first one with ATI, so that makes it pretty special. There's also a link for the Medical Innovation Challenge as well too, but I suspect you will also receive that in follow-up communications from Laura. So with that, I'll end and turn it back to you, Laura. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. I really appreciate it. Great information, and thanks for sharing your contact. Again, if you have any questions for Jen, go ahead and put those in the question tab box on the dashboard, and we'll go ahead now and turn to Mike, who is going to speak next. Go ahead, Mike.
Hi, Laura. Thank you very much. As Laura mentioned, I'm Mike Stebbins, and I serve as Executive Director for both the MCDC and the CWMD consortia. I've also been with ATI for over 15 years. And what I'd like to walk you through today is really a brief and high-level overview of both of the consortia and some of the technologies that the members are working on, who the government sponsors are, and where there might be opportunities for those of you that are in the audience. So if we can go to the next slide. Okay, as I mentioned, both of these consortia really are very well established, and they're comprised of industry and academia. They specifically develop prototypes, and they are meeting the needs of the Department of Defense primarily, and other federal customers. And you'll see that in a few moments, who the customer base is for both of these consortia. But honestly, they're made up of small businesses and large businesses, academia and nonprofits. They each have over 300 members. CWMD is just a little bit larger than that. And then they're comprised, within those business classes of what we call traditional defense contractors. And those are just entities that have been doing business with the government for quite some time, very adept at handling the peculiarities of the FAR, the Federal Acquisition Regulation. And really the biggest base of our membership, well over 85% of each consortia, are what we call non-traditional defense contractors. And these entities typically don't have the cost accounting systems to operate under the FAR. And so as you'll see in just a minute, we operate under a different acquisition vehicle called an other transaction. And this really allows the government to reach deeper into the defense industrial base, looking for the innovations that often reside with not necessarily the smaller companies, but those companies who either choose not to do business with the government or can't because the onerous restrictions of the Federal Acquisition Regulation. So if we can go to the next slide. Thanks. I'm going to talk about the consortia construct here for just a moment, because it really applies to both the MCDC and CWMD. You'll see that in a moment that they're really sister consortia in a way. They have the same basic Department of Defense customer. So there's a couple constructs, a couple pieces of this construct that are really important. You have the government there in the big blue circle to the bottom left. You have industry represented by the orange circle, so that's the consortium members. And then you have a consortium management firm. And we all operate under this acquisition vehicle called another transaction. And that is really just how we codify and contract the work that's going to happen. But the beauty of this construct is that there is not only ability to have collaboration and discussion between government and industry, it is really all but required. It is desired so that as government comes up with the requirements, they can talk with industry to understand whether industry has those capabilities, the know-how, the state of the art. Industry can feed that back to the government, which then works that back into the requirements so that they know they're asking of industry something that is within the realm of possibility. So that circle can happen several times. And then once a solicitation or a requirement is ready to be released, the consortium management firm will release that solicitation out to industry. Industry can then team however they like. They can team with other members of the consortia. They can go outside of the consortia. And they can go back to the government and ask questions all during the proposal preparation, which is really key, because what we're really talking about is a deeper level of understanding and communication that results in a better end product for not only industry, but the government. Those proposals get submitted back to the consortium firm. We do a compliance and completion screen, and then the government handles everything from source selection on forward. And then awards are made to those entities that are ready to begin work. And in many cases, multiple awards can be made off of a single solicitation. It just depends on what the need is for the government. So the general construct is industry and government are expected to collaborate to make sure that requirements that go out can actually be met from an industry standpoint. And then industry is desirous to collaborate with each other inside and outside of the consortium to turn in the best solution for the project, and everything's on a full and open competition basis. So if we can go to the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about the MCDC in depth. Okay, so I'm not sure if we're the only consortium that has an acronym built into its own acronym, but we are the Medical CBRN Defense Consortium. I think most folks know that that's chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear. Our primary customer is the Joint Program Executive Office for Chem Bio Rad Nuke Defense, so the JPEO CBRND. They had a desire back in 2015, 2016 to enter into another transaction with a consortium for the purpose of developing prototypes that address the need for medical countermeasures to support exposure to chemical and biological, and in some cases rad and nuke exposure. So they are the primary customer. Yet it's safe to say that the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, DTRA, which in a sense almost stands a little bit to the left of JPEO in terms of maturity of technologies, they are a heavy user of the Medical CBRN Defense Consortium. And as we'll talk about in a moment, the Department of Health and Human Services, and particularly BARDA, their Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, has been a user of the consortium a little bit before the pandemic, but certainly as the pandemic hit, the MCDC and MTech, as well as I'm sure Rick will talk to, were convenient acquisition vehicles that the government was able to take advantage of to quickly get prototypes out there to address some of the pending needs. So if we can go to the next slide. What we have here is really at a very high level, the technical focus areas. So the MCDC is really all about prevention, treatment, and diagnosis. And keep in mind, what we're looking for is prevention, treatment, and diagnosis relative to exposure to CBRN threats. Okay, there's a lot of other medical focused work that happens. A lot of that happens under MTech, but under MCDC, we are developing primarily medical countermeasures for exposure to chemical and biological threats, whether that be something weaponized or not. We certainly have soldiers in Western Africa that are going to be subject to the Ebola situation that's on over there. And so we want to make sure we outfit the soldiers with what they need to be protected in any environment. So under prevention, we certainly have developed vaccines. We've worked on vaccine platforms. Under treatment, we've handled a number of of drug delivery devices. For example, the equivalent of an EpiPen, where a soldier might carry a self-administered or a buddy-administered device that could have 1, 2, maybe 4 different active ingredients that could treat multiple exposures. And then, of course, under diagnosis, agent identification, disease diagnosis, et cetera. And we had a number of these play out in COVID type situations, which we'll talk about here in just a moment. We're just over 300 members. The numbers move up and down the spectrum. And honestly, as executive director, I'm not really hard over what the number is. The objective is to have the right mix of expertise in the broad medical countermeasure spectrum, so that when the government has a need, they can turn to the consortium to get that need met. We started off in 2016 officially. We've awarded 78 projects in that time. The numbers are quite high here. 8.7 billion in total project value and almost 8 billion in actual funding awarded to members. Now, I mentioned that those numbers were a bit skewed before COVID hit. We were just north of $1 billion in project value until we had 5 Operation Warp Speed projects come through the consortium. Several were for vaccine developments. I'm sure you're familiar with Pfizer and Janssen. The first 100 million doses of those 2 vaccines came through the consortium through the other transaction. The actual prototype that was developed was the advanced development and manufacturing piece, not the research that led to the development of the vaccine. And then obviously, since those 100 million doses, many more hundreds of millions of doses have been produced under separate contracts and outside of the consortium. But those were all funded through the Health and Human Services and BARDA in particular. And so they've impacted the consortium fairly significantly. But there were several other projects, about a dozen, that were outside of the Operation Warp Speed program, which addressed various aspects of COVID technologies. And one in particular was a diagnostic testing device by Cepheid that at the time, and this is March, April of 2020, was about a 45-minute detection device that was running positive in tests for COVID. So if we can go on to the next slide, please. And so I did mention that that the 2 consortia were sister consortiums. So you have the Medical CBRN Defense Consortium. That is everything associated with the medical treatment or exposure to the warfighter. The Counter WMD Consortium is everything else in the world of counter WMD. So we're talking sensors, we're talking situational awareness, anything to enhance the understanding and address weapons of mass destruction threats and vulnerabilities to our warfighter. So the customer is the same with the JPEO, CBR&D, and of course DTRA. It's really the entire mission of DTRA is counter WMD. But as you can maybe imagine, the Department of Homeland Security also has a need to protect the homeland. Certainly we could have WMD threats at our ports and other places. So they've run a couple projects through here. And this PEO, Assembled Chemical Weapons Alternative Organization, that we have one very large project that has come through the consortium that is actually getting rid of that last 10% of our chemical stockpile that that really represents the difficult chemicals to get rid of. The other 90% was fairly easy. So you've got medical kind of cordoned off, and then everything else would fall under this CWMD consortium. So if we can go to the next slide. Okay, the technical focus areas, you know, I tried to pare these back a little bit. They're really large. You could run a semi truck through the scope for the CWMD. As I said, as long as it's not medical and it's counter WMD, it fits under this consortium and under this other transaction. So consequence management, hazard mitigation, of course, CBRNE, threats and vulnerabilities, basic R&D, experimentation, emerging technologies, and really we haven't done anything with arms control technology, but I'm sure that's coming. This consortium is just shy of 400 members, and of course that goes up and down. It started in the fall of 2017. 164 projects have been awarded. The project value, combined project value, is just north of $1 billion, and almost $850 million of funding has been awarded. I remember speaking with the government program office and their lead when we set up CWMD in November of 2017. And at the time, Donald Trump was the president, and his rhetoric back and forth with the leader of North Korea and little rocket man, targets going back and forth. But what my program manager and the government told me is the first two solicitations that came out, we needed prototypes on the Korean Peninsula the day before the consortium was formed. So the threat is not only sobering, it is very real. And those solicitations were released, and within 90 days, awards had been made and work was being done to get those prototypes out of the U.S. and onto the Korean Peninsula. So if we can go to the next slide. So that's really a very high level overview. There's a lot of technology that goes into the solicitations that have come out through the consortium, and I advise you to go to each of these websites, and there's a solicitation page for each of them where you can find out not only what's coming down the pipe, but every solicitation and its status since inception of the consortium. You can see for those that have been awarded who has won, what the dollar value was, what the title of the solicitation was. We don't provide a lot of detailed information on our public websites. As you can imagine, there's sensitivity surrounding the nature of work for both of these consortia, but we try to be as open as possible with what's going to happen and what has happened. You'll see that we have solicitations that are still in some level of source selection and or still in some level of negotiation prior to contract award. But everything that we've done and are going to do is listed there. How to join is really fairly simple. Membership applications are online, and really all we're asking for is a couple of things. Simple business information. You've got to be able to do business with the government. So having DUNS number, cage code, SAM registration, all of that's critical. If you don't have that, it's certainly not a showstopper. We can walk you through those processes fairly easily. And of course, it's important that you have some level of expertise, either in developing medical countermeasures or counter WMD technologies. But just as our consortia technical areas are pretty broad, the technical capabilities of our member base is broad as well. And so if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. We do require what is called a DD 2345 certification. This is a certification that allows defense contractors access to what they call controlled unclassified information. We do have the ability to do classified projects under the programs, but we don't frequently. But there is the opportunity that you may come on across either controlled unclassified information or some other distribution marking. And so we do this to really protect the information that is being provided to us by the government, and it's a requirement for membership. We can walk you through that process as well. And then because we have that certification requirement, membership is limited to U.S. entities. Any U.S. entity is eligible to join. And likewise, if you have a foreign parent, but you have a US base here in the States, then that entity could join as well. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions. So if we go to the next slide, you'll see my contact information. That's my work number, my email, and then the emails for each of, or the URLs for the two consortia. Please do reach out, and we're happy to talk to you just to determine if there's some connection with our two consortia.
Great. Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate it. Great explanation of the OTA piece and the way that consortia work as well. I think that's really helpful. Rick, you are up. I'm going to actually pass you the presenter role now.
Okay.
And if you have any questions for Mike while Rick gets set up, don't forget to put those in the questions tab. We've already got a few great ones coming through that we'll get to after we hear Rick speak.
Oops. So can you see the slide?
Not yet, but sometimes there's a slight delay, so it may pop soon.
Yeah, it looks like I'm showing it. Any luck?
No.
Oh, darn, this worked in practice, didn't it?
I know. We just did it. If you'd like, I can flip through for you on this end. Oh, now I think, yeah. There you go.
There it is. Okay, great. So I'm Rick Satcher, Director of Commercialization for the Medical Technology Enterprise Consortium. I've got a lot of slides, but a lot of this information that I present is in our annual report that was just released, 2021 annual report, so you can refer back to a lot of that information. So what is MTech? MTech is a 501c3. We are a nonprofit, and we function as an OTA, as Mike had described, with the same benefits that are offered in the other consortiums. This consortium is funded primarily by MRDC, the U.S. Army Medical Research and Development Command, and you can see here the list of sponsors that we've had within there, and we also have Bright Focus Foundation and Allergan and Fight for Sight. And we continue to try to grow funding opportunities through foundations and other organizations such as BARDA. So our focus for MTech is on TRL3 and higher. So we like to see experimental proof of concept for products that are in development. That's often the point where you have initial prototypes or you've proven some animal model safety and efficacy studies, and then we go all the way up to TRL9. Our funding for 2021 was $252 million, and it's divided here by all the different groups within the Army. And since inception, we've been funded for $708 million, and that includes $86 million in cost share from our awardees. Our membership is growing, large and growing. It's 541 members right now, 368 of which are small business. And then you see a good representation of academia, larges, and other nonprofits. The funding opportunities for 2021 are listed here, and I wanted to just bring focus to the Military Prototype Advancement Initiative. We funded $20 million through that in the areas you see here: prolonged field care, medical readiness, human potential, and robotics and intelligence systems. We've got another solicitation out for a second round of MPI right now, and you can find that on our website. To date, we've had 170 projects. 28 of those have been closed out, and of those 170, over half of them are to small business. So we really like to focus on providing opportunities for our small business members. And our technology focus areas are the following four here, and I'll speak a little bit more on each. And again, you can find a lot of this information on our annual report as well as on the website. But with military infectious diseases, we're focused, of course, on threats to eliminate operational readiness and performance. You see a list here of our areas of interest. In 2021, we had almost 18 million in funding. Combat casualty care, we're focused on reducing combat-related trauma from the battlefield, especially far forward in the battlefield now, looking primarily at prolonged field care along with these other areas of interest. Our funding here for 2021 was 64 million, and you can see the project sponsors and awardees that we've funded last year. In military operational medicine, we're focusing on maximizing the health and performance of our soldiers, combating stressors and preventing physical injuries. We've done a lot of work with PTSD and physiological health, a lot of apps to help promote well-being and to monitor it. In 2021, we had 34 million in this area, and you can see our sponsors and awards listed here. And finally, medical simulation and informational sciences. We're looking to med simulation technologies, a lot of AI and XR or advanced virtual and augmented reality tools. And I have a couple examples of projects that we can show here. These are just a couple of project highlights from 2021. Fitbit put together some smartwatches for helping to detect COVID-19. Lumen Bioscience is an antibody cocktail to slow progression of disease and viral burden in the intestinal tract. And Gladstone Institutes, I've been working on these TIPS, these therapeutic interfering particles for HIV. Here's another couple of projects that focus on our MedSim, BCom 3D, Design Interactive, and 8i have played a pretty strong role in helping to define what virtual and augmented reality would look like for military. So our solicitation methods, we have a variety of ways in which we request proposals. The project proposals can be either full proposals. We also sometimes ask for white papers that we quickly review and determine whether or not we want to request a full proposal based on that. Enhanced white papers, which include a little more detail and budgets and can be directly funded, and as well as solution briefs to help us and the military quickly gauge what appropriate projects they would like to consider for funding. We have open communication during the pre-submission phase. Mike talked a little bit about this. Part of the advantage of the OTA is to have ongoing conversations with the sponsor. We offer proposer conferences. The Director of Research, Lauren Palestrini, hosts these where we meet with MTech members and the military sponsor and talk about technical requirements and open the floor to questions. We also support teaming opportunities among our members. We have a collaboration database where members can come in and describe what their collaboration capabilities are and their needs are, and offers a way to get in touch and team together. And oftentimes, the scope of these proposals are quite large, so it's sometimes difficult for one entity alone to do all the work. Here's an example of the member profile database where members can come in and look for interests or look for capabilities amongst the members to team. So the solicitation development process is kind of similar to what Mike had described. Sponsor IDs requirements, and they'll seek input from member and non-member input, and basically those reviews help the military understand where the market is, or where the private sector is in terms of developing products. And the focus here is not really only on the military. We like to look at a dual market focus. So a lot of times our requirements are that you describe the civilian need as well as the military need, and how your solution provides something that both can use effectively. We also have a basket provision where our sponsors evaluate the proposals, but sometimes there's not the funding available to fund everything they like. If they approve something, they think it's good to go, we just need funding for it. It goes into the basket, and within 2 years, other sponsors as well as that initial sponsor can choose to fund these baskets. And if it's funded, the project is awarded and work begins on tasks. So here is, this is right from our website, it's our solicitation page, and I provide the link down there below. We've got a couple active solicitations right now. I mentioned the MPI, this is the round 2 for it. The enhanced white papers are due pretty soon. So if you have the opportunity to take a look, you can download the RPP for it, and it describes the focus areas, which are similar to the first one that we issued in quite detail. And then also we're looking at military aid to fight, to aid in extreme fitness optimization and readiness management. And then I wanted to mention too, as part of our efforts to provide funding to small business members and also to foundations or to other entities within MTech, we've put together these commercialization grants and prototype acceleration funding grants. The commercialization grants are $50,000 to look at a non-technical project that helps to advance the commercialization readiness of the member, and a lot of times it's market research or anything you may need to help build your business strategy. And the prototype acceleration funding is $250,000 to help advance your prototype, your technology to the next phase where there is a potential funding inflection point. We ask for letters of support. A lot of times our members are in a place where they just need a little bit more funding to get some type of early proof of principle or proof of concept in their work, and that triggers funding from another entity. So as director of the commercialization program, we offer a lot of opportunities for members to learn about the business, technical, and regulatory strategies associated with medical product development. We have a series of educational webinars. We have an MCore that I'll show you on the next page. That is a network of subject matter experts and CROs with expertise in technical and regulatory and business strategies. And then we offer spotlights on federal labs and universities and large companies within our membership. We also offer mentoring services. I meet with a lot of small businesses to help review their strategic plans or their pitch decks and help them understand where they can hone the delivery or the information that's available to potential investors. And then we also offer mentoring through the MCore, and we have this military advisory panel that we're starting up now, and it's to help our members understand the military requirements and some of the ruggedization requirements that are necessary for a military product. We help members network through Member Connects, where we have quads that have members present very quickly, a minute or two, the overview of their company, what their capabilities are, and what their needs are. And we're also working on developing some discussion boards that help our members to converse with one another. I'll talk a little bit more about funding in subsequent slides. I want to be considerate of time. Here are a couple examples of the webinar series that I mentioned, educational spotlights and the MCore showcases. We hold one a week or maybe one every 2 weeks, and the schedule for those webinars are listed on our website. Here's our MCOR partner network. I started developing this last year based on a lot of feedback from companies looking for help and not knowing really where to turn. So we've got areas of focus in strategic consulting or business consulting, helping to define the market, helping to understand what their point of access, entry strategy, exit strategy can be, medical product development, clinical research, contract manufacturing. You see the list here. We've also included government relations and procurement and market access. So I think we cover a pretty good array of expertise for our members to reach out and connect. So we're also developing an investment network of angel and venture funding firms. This is something that I've obviously seen as a strong need for our members too, as we finish up projects and look for the next stage of development. The funding gets tight, the valley of death presents itself, and so we're trying to help our members get access to potential funding sources. And we're also going to establish an impact fund. We're raising we're talking with several venture firms about raising the funds, and the initial goal would be between 20 and 40 million available to MTech members. If we're lucky, this will happen this year. We're pushing forward with it, but it's quite a long process. Then I want to give a couple examples of some success stories within MTech. BioBridge Global and Rooster Bio are one of our first awards, and they developed a bone marrow derived mesenchymal stem cells for regenerative medicine. And now Rooster Bio offers these as products and xeno-free medium as well. And these have been used in over a dozen clinical trials. And we're excited to hopefully see that maybe this product will be used as a therapeutic in the coming year. Another example is Humacyte. They engineered blood vessels for vascular reconstruction. Our funding allowed them to move the product into clinicals, and they've been able to receive the funding to do so. They got 20 active sites. Things are looking very good for this product. But all these examples are great examples of products that fit the need for a military solution as well as civilian solution. University of Texas at Arlington is also looking at this ReHeal glove. It's a therapy addressing wound heals that uses negative pressure to accelerate the wound healing. And as a result of our funding and moving the technology forward, they've been able to secure some additional government funding for a study that looks at the feasibility of this. And so I think with this data, they have some strategic partners that they've been speaking with. I think there's a really good opportunity to move this forward in development and ultimately commercialize it. Okay, this is just a list of the benefits that we offer for membership. It's similar to what Mike said, in terms of speaking with the government and understanding their requirements and having back and forth. As I mentioned, we provide a lot of networking opportunities, and we have, as our president likes to say, multiple bites at the apple with the basket provision. And we're looking to, with that impact fund, potentially fund some of these basket projects that we think are very promising. The military has basically given their seal of approval, and we just want to make sure that there's an appropriate commercial market for them as well. To join MTech, you just have to download the consortium member agreement, and the fees are relatively modest. It's for small businesses $1,000, and we define small businesses as 500 and under, so that pretty much really takes care of a lot of small businesses. And then large businesses are a little bit more than $5,000. So I just wanted to give a shout out. We've got our 7th annual membership meeting coming up in Baltimore. May 24th and 25th. Registration just opened up for it. So if you'd like to learn more about MTech and speak with a lot of the military sponsors, they all provide the opportunity to tell you what they're looking for in the coming year and how you can work effectively. And then also, as I mentioned before, we just released our annual report where you can find a lot of the information that I flew through here in the presentation. Our website's listed down there below. And if you have any questions, we've got lots of folks who can answer them. Jill's our COO, Lauren, Director of Research, myself, and Kathy Zolman is the Director of Programs Operations. Thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rick. Appreciate it. So that concludes our presentation portion today, and we are now going to go through some Q&A. So I have received a number of questions. I guess one of them was, why would someone want to become a member of a consortium? But I think you both have expounded quite a bit, Mike and Rick, about what that may be. So essentially, you have the opportunity to access tens of billions in potential rapid funding, federal funding, through this special process that others don't necessarily get to access, and that's especially valuable for emerging technologies. Does that sound like a little bit of a summary, or would you change anything about that?
Spot on, and just to emphasize that these consortiums and the OTA allows us to talk to the sponsors, whereas if you're responding to an NIH proposal, it's good luck.
Right. Absolutely.
And it avoids all the FAR regulations, as Mike said, I mentioned. So you don't have a lot of red tape to deal with. It's business friendly is the way I like it.
Mm-hmm. All right, here's a question from Kristen. I've got a little bit of feedback, so we may have to mute till we're not, whoever's not speaking, but it says, if a technology is primarily for the general population but can be used by the military, is it worth submitting? Maybe Jen.
Yes, I would say yes to that. I think certainly, and we're seeing more of a bleed over effect where in the past, I think people thought, okay, I need to develop a technology just for the military. But I think what's happening is there's so much more collaboration going on between the military and private industry and academia. And I think this speaks to the success of consortia. And I think definitely with this innovation challenge, we encourage those types of technologies to definitely submit to it.
Great, thank you. Jen, another one for you. Can the team submit for more than one technology?
Yes, you can submit multiple technologies. Certainly, if let's say if you're a university and have a rather large portfolio, definitely try and align best you can with the buckets that we have on our website, but then also to the data that Rick and Mike went through in terms of their primary areas of interest. Try and select your top 3, top 5 technologies for submissions. I think that will certainly increase your chances, but then also too, that will align better with what the Medical Tech Challenge is seeking for June.
Great. And we have 2 questions related to IP. So I'll start with the one directed at the consortia. Are there IP obligations to belong to a consortia or to participate?
Laura, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I'll take a stab at that, and Rick, welcome to jump in. As far as MCDC and CWMD are concerned, neither of those consortia are particularly interested in a member IP. The government is, of course, but that IP and data rights and anything pertinent to an individual project award is able to be negotiated on a case-by-case basis. The government's not interested in owning your IP so that they can go commercialize. They just want to meet their need, and it should not prevent you from commercializing. But our 2 consortia are not in the business of having any rights towards your IP. We're just helping to navigate the actual agreement and making sure your project stays on track. Hopefully that helped.
The same is true with MTech. You know, you have your data rights that the government likes to have it. We have it outlined in our CMA, the consortium member agreement, so you can reference that. We were, when we first started, we considered royalty provisions. We made that optional with an additional assessment fee, but we've hence this year taken that away, just so that we can focus on developing technology and not who gets what rights after it's commercialized. You're muted, Laura, maybe?
Oh, we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, I thought I unmuted, but I didn't do a good enough job. I'm here. Another IP question is, are there any intellectual property risks involved in the competition? And kind of another piece that goes with that, are there any protections when you pitch?
Sure. So certainly when you submit into the challenge, do not submit anything proprietary, confidential, anything that you think may potentially I mean, we certainly would, when we receive the submissions, they're only viewed by our review committee, and then whatever you decide to pitch on site is your level of comfort. This is a public event. There will be various attendees and presence as well as military. So certainly just disclose as much as you're comfortable disclosing. And certainly within the innovation form, you can make note where you won't want to disclose something. You can also say, can provide upon request as an example, if you don't feel like answering a question like that. But certainly we encourage anything that's patent pending, patent approved, anything that you've done to protect your technology, that's most likely what you would want to submit. And certainly, we also have word limits as well. So certainly less is more. People, aren't submitting like 4-page papers. This is really meant to be a technology snapshot and give us as much information as you're comfortable giving to us that then will help us decide, the outcomes for the challenge.
Great, thank you. Another question, does joining a consortia require institutional involvement, or can an individual lab join?
I guess that's in reference to a university.
I think we can assume that. I think that's what I assumed. Yeah.
So, with us, we've had several universities join us. I think we're numbering in the 40s now, and we like to consider the entire university a member. So individual labs, whoever wants to apply can do so. That provides the greatest opportunity for the professors and researchers there to contribute to MTech.
Mike, is that the same for you? Hold on, let me see if I can unmute you. There you go. See if that worked. Yep. No, can't hear you. We'll come back if you have a different answer. Kyrie, hopefully that was a good
Okay.
to your question, but if you have any follow-up, then feel free to follow up. Mike, I think I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would agree with Rick. There are provisions for parent-child relationships in consortia that usually is best with large corporations, say like a Boeing or a General Dynamics, where they may have different divisions across the country. But with the university, usually the folks that are going to sign up to that member agreement are going to be the special projects office or research office, and then any researcher within that institution can avail themselves of the consortium. One thing I'd point out is, to the degree you can't have it, it's really critical to have an academic belly button at your institution that is seen and knows all of the consortia that institution may be a part of, so that that person can maybe funnel opportunities out to the right researchers.
Great. We are at time, so I'm going to ask one final quick question here. And then we'll close out, but I want to say just a quick appreciation to our speakers and to all of you for joining here. It's been a real pleasure to host you, and we will follow up with any questions we didn't get to. So if you have any more, don't feel like time is up. You still have another minute or so to get that in, and we'll respond later. Final question is from Carlos. Can a company apply if they are currently being funded by an SBIR grant?
Absolutely.
All are welcome. All right.
In fact,
On
it's a
that
great,
note,
great
yeah,
start.
on that positive note, we will end our time here. We are just a little bit over, but I really appreciate all of you being here, and we look forward to seeing your applications and then seeing you pitch. So have a great rest of your day, and thanks again.